Imagine a dawn shattered by a cataclysmic roar. On July 28, 2025, the skies over Phnom Penh trembled as a massive weapons depot on the city's outskirts erupted in flames, consumed by a raging inferno. Thick black smoke choked the horizon, casting a grim shadow over Cambodia's capital. Just 12 hours later, an entire squadron of J-16 fighter jets, secretly supplied by China to Cambodia, was reduced to smoldering wreckage, obliterated before a single plane could take flight. Cambodia believed it held the reins of this conflict, a nation poised to assert its might. But the truth is far darker. They were merely a pawn in Beijing's high-stakes geopolitical chess game. What hidden agenda drove China to push Phnom Penh to the edge of collapse? What covert moves is the United States, with its cutting-edge technology lurking in the shadows, preparing to counter this audacious power play? And what does this mean for Southeast Asia, a region teetering on the brink of chaos? Welcome to B-21 Radar, where global conflicts are not just reported, but dissected with the precision of a military strategist. Here, the battlefield is a stage where power, strategy, and geopolitical ambition collide, revealing the hidden forces shaping our world. Join us as we unravel the explosive showdown shaking Southeast Asia to its core. After nearly 4 days of ferocious clashes with Thailand, Cambodia's initial bravado has crumbled into despair. The general staff in Phnom Penh was forced to admit a devastating truth. Over 50% of its artillery forces, tanks, rocket launchers, and heavy guns have been wiped out in just 4 days of combat. The largest munitions depot in Banteay Menchie province, a cornerstone of Cambodia's military strength, was reduced to rubble by a surgical airstrike from Thailand's advanced Grapon-E fighter jets, guided by U.S. targeting systems capable of pinpointing a single bunker in Cambodia's dense jungles. This wasn't just a loss of equipment, it was a crushing blow to the morale and resolve of Cambodia's armed forces, leaving soldiers questioning their role in a war that feels increasingly foreign. In the streets of Phnom Penh, the air crackles with defiance. Thousands of furious citizens have flooded the capital, their voices rising in a crescendo of anger as they wave banners proclaiming, "We are not Beijing's puppets. Peace for Cambodia, not war for China's agenda." These protests are not just a cry for peace. They're a rebellion against a government seen as selling out to a foreign power. Discontent has spread like wildfire through Cambodia's military ranks, igniting a silent mutiny. Entire platoons from the 2nd Infantry Division have refused orders to march to the front lines, their defiance a bold statement against a conflict they no longer believe in. General Hara, deputy commander of the Eastern Military Region, sent shockwaves through the nation by submitting his resignation, publicly declaring he would not fight for foreign interests. His words have fueled whispers of dissent, with some soldiers discarding their uniforms in solidarity with the protesters. Amid this mounting chaos, Prime Minister Hun Sen convened an emergency meeting at the Independence Palace, a fortress of power now besieged by public outrage. A leaked source from Cambodia's Ministry of Defense revealed a desperate plan. Hun Sen ordered his top commanders to prepare for a ceasefire and open negotiations with Thailand, using Laos as a neutral mediator. It was a rare moment of pragmatism, a chance to pull Cambodia back from the abyss. But then, everything changed. A high-level Chinese delegation, led by the deputy commander of China's Southern Theater Command and regional security advisor for Indochina, arrived in Phnom Penh under the cover of night. In less than 5 hours, all talk of peace was silenced. That evening, Cambodia's Ministry of Defense issued a chilling directive: reorganize all remaining forces for a massive counteroffensive. The question burns: why is China so determined to keep Cambodia in the fight, even as the nation spirals toward collapse? The answer lies in a shadowy strategy known as South China Sea 2.0, a blueprint for dominance that extends far beyond the contested waters of the South China Sea. China's ambition is not just to control maritime routes, but to establish an iron grip over Southeast Asia from the mainland, with Cambodia as the linchpin. A June 2025 report from the Rand Corporation's Strategic Research Institute exposed this audacious plan. China is building a covert logistics corridor stretching from the port of Ream through Sihanoukville, linking to Cambodia's internal railway network, and extending to the rugged Lao Plateau. This corridor is no ordinary supply line. It's a strategic lever designed to project power across the region. With it, Beijing can deploy drones, anti-ship missiles, and long-range radar systems, blanketing the western Spratly Islands in just 5 hours. The system is meticulously divided into 3 segments. The first, from Ream to the Spratlys, controls the sea with swarms of drones and precision-guided missiles. The second, from Sihanoukville to Laos, uses civilian trucks disguised as commercial transports to ferry military equipment. The third, connecting to southern China, relies on Beidou satellites to orchestrate the battlefield with surgical precision. A report from Japan's Strategic Defense Institute revealed that China has poured $4.5 billion into dual-purpose infrastructure in Cambodia. Projects like the Ream-Laos Railway and underground storage facilities masquerading as civilian fishing vessel maintenance sites. Leaked documents from WikiLeaks paint an even starker picture. From 2014 to 2024, China funneled an additional $4.1 billion into Cambodia through direct aid and backroom deals, all to secure one critical demand: keep the South China Sea 2.0 corridor intact at all costs. This is no mere investment. It's a calculated move to transform Cambodia into a forward operating base for China's regional ambitions. But cracks are forming in Beijing's master plan. Thailand, backed by the unmatched reconnaissance capabilities of US RQ-180 drones, has launched devastating airstrikes that demolished 3 key transfer stations in Stung Treng province, severing critical nodes in China's logistics chain. These strikes weren't just tactical victories. They were a direct challenge to Beijing's control, exposing vulnerabilities in a plan that seemed unstoppable. Hun Sen is trapped in a deadly bind. On one side, his people are rising up, their protests growing louder and more defiant, with chants of "We are not Beijing's puppets" echoing through the streets. On the other, he's bound by a decade of Chinese aid, economic, military, and political, that has propped up his regime since 2014. The public's anger is no longer just a protest. It's a direct threat to his government's survival, with whispers of rebellion growing among even his loyalists. The question looms large. Who has the power to halt China's relentless march? The answer is unmistakable: the United States, under the resolute leadership of President Donald Trump. From the outset of this conflict, the U.S. has avoided direct military engagement, yet its influence is undeniable in every precise strike delivered by Thailand. Through the classified Silver Spear campaign, the U.S. has deployed a formidable arsenal of technology to outmaneuver China. Advanced GSS-AP-5 reconnaissance satellites pinpoint hidden Chinese bases with chilling accuracy, providing real-time coordinates to Thai forces. RQ-180 drones, known as the White Phantom, glide undetected through Cambodian airspace, capturing every movement of disguised military convoys. Electronic intelligence from the U.S. base at Diego Garcia has mapped out China's covert operations, exposing their every move. The Molecular Targeting System, MTS, embedded in small U.S. drones, uncovered a shocking secret. Containers in Sihanoukville, labeled as civilian cargo, were packed with guided missile casings equipped with long-range control chips. This wasn't just a discovery, it was a revelation that changed the game. Thailand, armed through the 2023 Southeast Asia Priority Partnership Program, has become a formidable ally. Equipped with Gripen-E fighter jets and Ghost Bat drones, Thai forces have jammed Chinese signals across Stung Treng, disrupting their command and control. AGM-15. 8 sea missiles, guided by Pentagon-developed AI optimized for Cambodia's dense jungle terrain, have struck with surgical precision. When these findings reached Washington, President Trump convened an emergency National Security Council meeting, declaring that China had crossed a critical red line. His response? Activate the soft strangulation strategy, a masterclass in modern warfare that cripples adversaries without firing a shot in open conflict. This approach relies on technology, intelligence, and precision to choke off China's ambitions while avoiding the political fallout of direct military engagement. But why is China so relentless, even as Cambodia's trust in its leadership crumbles? The answer lies in a plan that has been quietly unfolding for over 6 years. South China Sea 2.0. Unlike traditional defense strategies, this plan is not just about protecting artificial islands, but about locking down the entire logistics chain of the U.S. and its allies in Southeast Asia, from the mainland to the sea. It's a closed corridor stretching from Cambodia to the Lao Plateau, connecting directly to the Spratly Islands and blanketing the western South China Sea with Chinese-controlled radar, missiles, and drones. This strategy began taking shape after 2014, when the U.S. announced its strategic pivot to Asia. To counter this, China developed a new model of layered defense, integrating land, sea, and cyberspace. Cambodia is the heart of this strategy, not just for its strategic location flanking the western South China Sea and bordering Thailand, a U.S. treaty ally, but because China has spent decades cultivating influence through investments, infrastructure, and a network of political and military advisors. A late 2023 report from Japan's Strategic Defense Institute revealed that China invested over $4.5 billion in dual-purpose infrastructure in Cambodia, projects that serve civilian purposes but can be militarized when needed. These include the high-speed railway linking Ream to the Lao border, logistics transfer stations controlled by Chinese private firms, but overseen by the People's Liberation Army, PLA, and covert storage bunkers at Ream, disguised as fishing vessel maintenance sites. The South China Sea 2.0 corridor is divided into 3 segments. The first, from Ream to the Spratlys, controls the sea with drones, long-range radar, and anti-ship missiles. The second, from Sihanoukville to the Lao Plateau, operates a covert supply line using civilian trucks disguised as commercial transports. The third, connecting to southern China, relies on Beidou satellites as the backbone of battlefield control. Internal Pentagon intelligence reports indicate China has completed nearly 85% of the military signal transmission stations in the second segment. If they secure Stung Treng province, adjacent to Laos, they could finalize the logistics corridor in under 2 weeks, rendering U.S. intervention in the western Spratlys nearly impossible. So, what is the U.S. doing to stop this? The answer is precise and devastating. Over the past 3 months, U.S. tech special forces have executed the Silver Spear campaign, integrating GSSAP satellites, RQ-180 drones, and electronic reconnaissance from Diego Garcia. They've pinpointed China's data transfer stations in Cambodia and relayed real-time intelligence to Thailand. Through the Southeast Asia Priority Partnership Program, launched by President Trump in 2023, Thailand has been equipped with the technology to neutralize China's communication lines without crossing borders. Thai forces deployed Gripen-E electronic warfare jets and ghost bat drones, emitting high-frequency jamming signals that paralyzed Stung Treng's communication networks. This forced China to activate backup systems, exposing their plans further. But what truly unnerves China is not just tactical jamming, but the technology behind Thailand's operations. U.S.-developed systems are tailored for asymmetric warfare. Take the molecular targeting system, MTS, used in small drones, which detects military materials camouflaged in civilian settings. It was MTS that revealed Sihanoukville's containers, labeled as electronics, were actually missile casings with long-range control chips. When this intelligence reached Tokyo and Washington, President Trump convened the National Security Council, concluding that China had crossed a red line. The U.S. would not allow Southeast Asia to be militarized from within. Inside the Pentagon, the term soft strangulation emerged, a strategy of precise, non-declaratory strikes that paralyze an adversary's logistics without open warfare. Championed by Trump, this approach embodies a core principle. When your opponent doesn't declare war, make it impossible for them to fight. This strategy is not just military, it's a bold statement of U.S. technological dominance and global leadership. It sends a clear message to Beijing. No nation can use another's territory to threaten regional security without consequences. The question for all of us is, if China is 85% toward completing its plan, if Cambodia can't stop, what will the U.S. do next? Will the strike come from the skies, cyberspace, or a coordinated regional special forces operation? We're witnessing a war where weapons don't always fire, but the consequences could reshape Southeast Asia's order. Beneath the surface, as Cambodia appears to falter, a different war machine is quietly humming, one that doesn't wear Cambodian uniforms or speak Khmer in its commands, but operates in Mandarin, issuing orders via Beidou satellites from 1,700 kilometers away, deep within China's Southern Theater Command. On July 27th, dozens of unidentified kamikaze drones appeared on Thai radar, flying just 20 meters above ground, emitting no identification signals, ignoring warning commands, and carrying no standard reconnaissance equipment. They slammed into the 3rd Army Region's logistics base in Chanthaburi, where radar surveillance systems were stationed. In just 2 minutes, 3 supply depots were obliterated, killing 18 soldiers, including a lieutenant colonel in charge of communications. Thai Gripen jets scrambled to pursue, but the drones vanished from radar within 10 minutes. The entire operation, from launch to strike, lasted barely 30 minutes. What alarmed military analysts wasn't the speed, but the drones' true identity. Analysis of the wreckage by U.S. and Thai technical teams revealed they were JY-131 drones, a model never publicly disclosed, not part of Cambodia's military inventory, and absent from any public aid records. Crucially, their central processors used second-generation Beidou navigation systems, exclusive to China's military. The conclusion was undeniable. This wasn't a Cambodian counterattack, but a Chinese-orchestrated strike, controlled remotely, using Cambodia as a strategic launchpad. Why did China choose this moment to strike directly? Why not use regular PLA forces? What was the real target behind this lightning-fast attack? The answer lies in China's battlefield shadow doctrine, developed in 2023. Instead of deploying regular troops and risking international backlash, China uses proxy forces, mercenaries, semi-civilian drones, or peripheral special units, to strike without accountability. The Chanthaburi attack was the first real-world test of this unconventional warfare model. Thailand responded swiftly. Short-range defense systems were deployed urgently at 3 coastal bases. Israel-supplied Spider radar systems were activated around the clock, scanning the skies for threats. The U.S. provided Iron Beam laser system, a revolutionary light shield capable of downing drones, mortars, and short-range missiles was brought online under direct authorization from President Trump. Iron Beam uses no ammunition, only electricity, and algorithms precise to the meter. Recognizing drones and hybrid warfare as the future of strategic conflict, the Trump administration proactively transferred cutting-edge defense technologies to key allies like Thailand. When China tested Thailand's resolve again, sending another unidentified drone across the Cambodian border, Iron Beam was ready. Within 3 seconds of locking on, a high-intensity laser obliterated the drone mid-flight north of Chanthaburi, a stark warning that the game had shifted. China has repeatedly used Cambodia as a launchpad for unofficial strikes, unmarked drones, radar disguised as commercial trucks, command centers hidden within civilian complexes in Phnom Penh. But now, every position has been exposed. That evening, the U.S. Department of Defense issued a brief statement. Any actions destabilizing our Southeast Asian allies will face proportionate responses. No mention of China or Cambodia, but the message was clear. In an emergency White House meeting, President Trump and Pentagon commanders agreed on a strategic strike, precise, powerful, and regionally deterrent. At dawn, the USS Ronald Reagan aircraft carrier moved close to international waters off Cambodia's coast. 2 B-2 Spirit stealth bombers were activated from Guam, while an EC-37B electronic warfare group jammed signals across a 400-kilometer radius around Sihanoukville. The strike began at 3:21 a.m. B-2 Spirits silently crossed Lao airspace, zeroing in on their target, a high-tech complex in Sihanoukville, publicly touted by China as a civilian telecom hub. But GSSAP and KH-11 thermal imaging revealed its true purpose: a command center coordinating China's drone operations, linked to Beidou satellites. AGM-158C stealth missiles, launched from 10,000 meters and skimming 12 meters above ground, weaved through anti-radar defenses and pierced 3 layers of reinforced concrete. The strike obliterated the command hub, destroying critical data and killing at least 5 Chinese military advisors. The precision was surgical, the impact seismic. Hours later, Cambodia announced a full withdrawal from the border to protect civilians and stabilize society. Prime Minister Hun Sen appeared on television, calling for peace without mentioning China. In Phnom Penh, protests raged on, with citizens waving banners. "We will not be a war launch pad." China's response was a chilling silence. The Pentagon reported that 85% of the South China Sea 2.0 network in Cambodia was neutralized. South Korea released satellite footage showing the Sihanoukville complex reduced to rubble, with smoke rising for 12 hours. ASEAN held an emergency summit in Jakarta, condemning China's destabilizing actions. Cambodian citizens flooded the streets, not with anti-American slogans or attacks on Western embassies, but with banners declaring, "We will not be a war launch pad. Cambodia is not anyone's buffer zone." The message was clear. As China's shadow of expansion was repelled, the people could finally raise their voices. The strike didn't just save Cambodia, it sent a global signal. Any nation attempting to build a strategic logistics chain from the mainland to the South China Sea, or using another country as a war proxy, will face U.S. consequences: silent, precise, and game-changing. Looking back at this chain of events, from Cambodia's attempt to withdraw, to China's proxy strikes, to the U.S.'s decisive blow forcing Beijing's silence, what do we see? That true power lies not in words, but in action. That strength is not in displayed weapons, but in their timely use. And that the United States, with the world's most advanced technology and President Trump's unwavering leadership, remains the only nation capable of balancing global power. Should the U.S. escalate further, perhaps deploying the USS Gerald R. Ford to the Gulf of Thailand? Is soft strangulation enough to contain China, or will Beijing regroup for another push? If Hun Sen's regime collapses under public fury, will Cambodia become a flashpoint or a beacon of independence? Share your thoughts. Should America send troops to draw a harder line? Is technology and alliances enough to secure the region? What's next for Cambodia's future? Thank you for watching B21 Raider, where we uncover the truth behind global conflicts, military strategy, and the forces shaping our world. If you're passionate about geopolitics, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and drop your predictions in the comments. Let's keep the conversation alive.